Hey everybody, my name is Amber. I'm an astrologer and a transformational life coach, and I really wanted to make a video about Venus retrograde. It's starting on July 22nd, and this is happening in the entirety of Venus retrograde period in the sign of Leo. Venus always goes retrograde for 40 days, and I want to share a little bit about what that means and how it might be affecting you. I'm going to go through all the houses and share a little bit about that. So the first thing I want to say is that Venus is amazing. Venus is incredible. She goes through a retrograde period, excuse me, about every year and a half, every 19 months. And she has a period of time where she is an evening star, either before or after retrograde period. And then after her retrograde period, she's born again as a morning star. So she goes back and forth from evening star to morning star. And what that means is that it's where in the sky you can see her. So Venus, you can't see in the sky unless it's either at dusk. So right after the sun goes down, she's very bright in the sky if she's in the evening star phase. And as a morning star, you can only see her at dawn. So again, very bright. So I highly encourage you go out to look for her when she's in her phase. Right now, she's at, this is in July 20th of 2023, she's in her evening star phase, which each phase has their own influence, if you will, into different aspects of, which I can make another video for that another day. But during her retrograde period, it's such a special time because in the myth of Venus is that she, similar to the story of Inanna, and I'll make another video for that another day as well. But in each phase, when she's in her morning or her evening star phase, she goes through 7 gates. And each gate that she goes through, she's either removing a piece of herself or she's adding a piece of herself back on. And so at a retrograde period, it's when she's either she's reached her destination and she's going into the underworld, or she's she's going away. So during her retrograde period, we cannot see her at all. And so the myth is that she's going into the underworld. She's really going within. So this is symbolic for us because it gives us an opportunity or an invitation for us to come within, to connect with ourselves on a deeper level, connect with the relationship with ourselves. As you may know, Venus rules relationships. So it's inviting us to connect with all things of Venus, which is relationships, love, creativity, passion, really like sacral chakra, our femininity. And during retrograde times, it's, maybe not always the best time to start a new relationship. Or if you do start a new relationship, just know that, during retrograde periods, it's not bad. I know retrogrades usually or tend to get a bad reputation, and retrograde periods are not bad. They're just an invitation for us to slow down. What a retrograde period means is that the planet is, from Earth's perspective, it's not actually going backwards, but from Earth's perspective, it looks like it's going backward or like it's slowing down. So that's what's inviting us to do. Whenever a planet goes retrograde, it's inviting us to slow down, and it's inviting us to review something, to go back over something. And when Venus goes retrograde, it's inviting us to review something, to slow down. Maybe something that's being blocked is coming to the surface with all things Venus. So relationships, love, maybe in our appearance, maybe in what we're creating, maybe our relationship to our femininity or our creative center, the arts. If you do start a new relationship during our Venus retrograde, I'm not saying to not do it, because I don't agree with I think that we should always live our lives no matter what. We shouldn't stop living our lives because of what the planets are doing. But just know that there could be an opportunity to review something. Maybe some old patterns come up. Maybe there's something that becomes more clear when that retrograde period is over. I encourage you to move through this retrograde period or any retrograde period with intention, and just know and remain flexible. If things come up or if things need to change or do change, just remain open and flexible. With that being said, with Venus being retrograde in the sign of Leo, which this makes this Venus retrograde period is extra special because it's happening for the entire time in Leo, which doesn't always happen in the same sign. This is matters of the heart. You know, Leo is ruled by the sun, and it rules the heart. So this is really calling us to connect with our heart center, things that really light us up inside, what makes us feel loved, what makes us love more deeply. It may be bringing things to the surface that block us from giving and receiving love. It may bring up old wounds, you know, times that we've really been hurt or things that get to be addressed, get to be processed. And also inviting us to really express ourselves. You know, this Leo wants to be seen. So to express ourselves from this creatively passionate, heart-centered place. This is such a beautiful time for being seen in a big way, either where we're creating something we're putting out into the world, or if we're leaning into intimacy with others, with people in our lives in a deeper way. This is such a fruitful, juicy, loving time. Very like love is a big word here. And anything that helps you feel that frequency of love. So if there's dance or joy or play or anything that's helping us embody this expressive side of ourselves, I encourage you to explore that. Maybe try something new, maybe try something that you haven't done in a really long time, or like something that connects us to our inner child. You know, this is all very Venus retrograde in Leo energy here. With that being said, I would love to go. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention. So I'm just going to share my screen so that you can see what I'm looking at. This is the chart of the day for when Venus goes retrograde. So Venus will be going retrograde on July 22nd, 2023. And she's going to be almost all the way out of Leo. She's going to be at 28 degrees of Leo, and then she's going retrograde, I think pretty much almost till the beginning of Leo, and then she'll go direct again after 40 days. She's always retrograde for 40 days. And one thing I wanted to point out about this chart that I think is really interesting is that there's a yod. So if you don't, they also call it a finger of God. So if you've never heard of that before, essentially what that means is that it's an aspect pattern. And if we're looking at a chart, the lines in the middle are called aspects, and they give us information about the relationships between planets. So the blue ones tend to be a little bit more quote unquote easier or you know, easy, full of energy, opportunities, maybe a little bit more on the quote unquote positive side. And the red ones tend to bring a little bit more challenge or tension and tend to be a bit more challenging. Not good or bad, not labeling them, it's just information. But so sometimes they make patterns. And the pattern that stuck out to me the most, especially since we're talking about Venus retrograde, is this yod. So a yod is also called a finger of God. And it is it's an inconjunct. So it's if you're using astro.com, it's these two green dotted lines. And they're always, it looks like a big tall triangle. So they're always conjoined with a sextile at the bottom. So it's a smaller blue line with a tall, long triangle. And the important thing to notice about a yod is where it's pointing to. So whatever it's pointing to is something to pay attention to, because there's something there that's very significant. And this yod is pointing to Venus. So, you know, this won't stay like this for very long, but it is telling. It is very good information for what this Venus retrograde has in store for us. So there's something extra special, even though there's many things that make this retrograde important or special. This is an extra special thing to pay attention to. So with that being said, I really want to dive more into the houses. So the way that you will find this out is if you look up your birth chart and you can see where Venus is falling in your chart, it'll be wherever Leo is. And wherever Leo is, you want to look to where that house is. Now, I personally use whole sign houses. A lot of people use Placidus house system, and you know, so the only difference with those is whole sign. The Leo will be ruling the same house. They'll be lined up. With Placidus, they may not. So it may be two different houses. Not neither one is more right or wrong. It's just a different perspective. So if there are two houses in one, it may be showing up in both, or it may be a combination of both. I encourage you to explore all the different perspectives and see which one feels most fitting for you. I want to mention that may be important to look at is where your sun is showing in your birth chart. And the reason why I say this is because the sun really has an emphasis here because it's ruled by Leo. And so if we look at where the sun is falling in our chart, it gives us just an extra layer of information as to where this Venus retrograde influence may be showing up in our life. So I encourage you to look at both Venus and the sun and see what houses those are falling in. If Venus is falling in your first house, so if Leo is ruling your first house, that would mean you're a Leo rising. This tells me that there could be something about your appearance that you may that may shift. You may notice that you want to change something. You may want to do something different. You may notice that you may shift the way that you're presenting yourself in the world. So the way that people are seeing you may start to change. And that's more on like an outside, more surface level way of looking at it. If we're going to go a little bit deeper with it, you know, I know I mentioned earlier in this video that this Venus retrograde in Leo is ruling our heart center. And so first house matters is all about the relationship with self. It's the foundation of our self. And so I would encourage you to ask yourself how is my heart? How is my heart during this time? How do I feel like I am tending to my heart? Do I feel open? Do I feel like there's something that I get to do to nurture and love myself right now? Am I feeling connected to the people around me? Am I feeling connected to myself? Is there something that I can do that can really light me up or bring some comfort to myself or reconnect? Is there something I can do to reconnect with myself? I think that would be a really powerful word during this retrograde time is reconnecting. How can I reconnect with myself in a deeper, more passionate way? Do I want to go take a class or do something that feels really fun? So those are some suggestions I have for you and to ask yourself during this Venus retrograde time. The next house would be the second house, and second house matters is really around things that we value. A lot of the time it shows up around money, around our personal income. So if you have Venus in your second house and also if Leo is ruling your second house, this tells me that there could be something, you're being called to review something around how you are aligned with your values. So my question to you would be, are you feeling like you're spending your time wisely? Do you feel like you're spending your money wisely? Do you feel like your money is being spent and or received in ways that feel good to you? Is there something that gets to shift around how your income is feeling? Are you feeling nourished? Are you feeling fulfilled by how you're making money? Are you spending money in a way that feels like you're setting your future self up for success? If you are feeling that way, great. Continue to do that. Continue to invest in yourself. Maybe use your resources like financial and or time or whatever else to invest in things that really bring you joy, that really bring you some fulfillment, that really light you up inside. And if you don't feel like your financial situation or your resources, whatever they are not aligned with your values or how you want them to look or how you want them to be experienced, how you want to be experiencing them, then I encourage you to think about what are your values. What do you want to be? How do you want to be spending your money? How do you want to be making your money? Is there something that's more that you feel more called to do? You know, having Venus in the second house could mean that you may be more drawn to the creative arts. You may be you may have like a real creative side to you And being seen in that is a really big deal and has a direct impact on your income. So are you doing that? Are you creating? Are you letting yourself be seen in what you're creating? If you're not, I encourage you to really lean into that. If it feels overwhelming, maybe just start small and do something to fuel that creative fire within you. And or maybe go out and find some inspiration, not comparison. This is important here, but some inspiration around people who are really letting themselves be seen and really expressing themselves creatively. Like tuning into that frequency is going to be really important during this retrograde period, because something is wanting to realign. Something may be wanting to realign here, or something is maybe wanting to come up and out. And so I would just trust, like if there's something that's wanting to come up and out, just trust it and maybe let it come out and see what happens in the long run, because it may have an impact on your income. Third house matters is really around communication, in the short answer. This is what I see most commonly. It can show up in other ways too, like our daily routines, maybe our siblings. But in the short, most what I've seen most commonly is how we're communicating with others. So if you have Venus in the third house and it's ruling Leo, something that's really important for you is how you communicate with the world and how you communicate within relationship. And so you may notice that there's some struggles that come up in how you're expressing yourself, how you're communicating with others during this retrograde period. You may notice it coming up, in relationships in your life. You may notice it with family members and or like your local community, maybe people you grew up with, or like neighbors, for example. If that is the case, there's a lesson to be learned here. There's maybe some block or something that's wanting to be addressed, something that's wanting to be healed. As I said earlier on in this video, this retrograde period is ruling our heart center because of Leo. And so I encourage you, like I have other people, like really checking in with your heart place and how is my heart feeling right now? How am I feeling like I am giving and receiving love, especially in my, closer relationships, my siblings, my local community, my family, or maybe not family, but my neighbors. And how do I feel like I'm expressing myself? Is there any blocks here that get to be nurtured and or addressed so that I can more freely express myself from a place of openness and vulnerability and being seen and intimacy, really? And if you do feel like you're doing really well with that, then continue doing what you're doing. Like really, like this is with this retrograde period, it may be a time to really come inward and to really maybe get clear of where you want to be in your future long term. Like what are some aspirations or some visions or some goals that you have around these areas of your life, and how can you align with how you want to express yourself moving forward? Or maybe some actionable steps that you can take when this retrograde period has come to a close that you can invest in moving forward. If you have Venus in your fourth house, and if Leo is ruling your fourth house, this is a time of, this is impacting your family life or your home life or your internal world. It could be around programming. There could be some stuff. You may notice some stuff coming up around some programming that you adopted in childhood. It could show up through your relationships. It could show up within your family life. You may notice some hiccups during this retrograde period. If that happens, it's okay. It's expected during this time. It's coming up because it wants to be seen. It wants to be addressed. It wants to come to light. And if you feel like things are going well in this area of your life, I encourage you to think about what feels good for you in terms of how you want to express yourself within your family life, or based, coming away from how you were programmed in your childhood. Like, do you feel like you are able to express yourself in a really authentic, like open way. Is that something that feels true for you? And if it doesn't, maybe review like what's blocking that. How can I show up in a way in my life? How can I be in a way that is aligned with who I am? Like what wants to come out through my heart space? Like what does my heart want to say? And how can I be more open and vulnerable with the people in my family or with the world, because coming away from what I want to take or not take with me from my childhood experience. Yeah. If Venus is in your fifth house, or if Leo is ruling your fifth house, this is actually a really juicy time because as far as modern astrology goes, Leo rules the fifth house. So this is all around creative self-expression. It's all around what we are creating and birthing into the world. Tends to be where children shows up, because we literally create and we birth children into the world. So if that, there could be some stuff coming up with, if you have children, coming up with your children. It could be that this could be a really juicy time to just go inward and get creative about what you want to create in your life moving forward. So what is the inner fire within me communicating that I that I can explore during this time? What really lights me on fire? What really is dry is what do I feel passionate about? And how can I feed that and fuel that and explore that during this retrograde period for the next 40 days that can really that I can start to build and create and birth later on in my life. Like, what do I want to create and put out into the world so that I can express myself and I can be seen and I can be fulfilled. Leo is that's a good word for fulfilled. It's like Leos get to do this so that they feel fulfilled. So that's my question to you, is what brings me joy? What brings me excitement, fun, passion? And what do I want to create from that place? If you have Venus in the sixth house, or if Leo is ruling your sixth house, I encourage you to think about how things feel in your body right now. So how do you feel like you are taking care of your physical health? Do you feel like you get to come back to connecting with yourself? Venus rules our sensuality, our creativity, our like sacral chakra, our femininity. So with you, this might be a really great time to get clear about what makes me feel that way in my body. How do I feel when I'm connecting with my body? What can I do or be? How can I be with my body that makes me feel like I'm tapping into my creative center? What makes me feel sensual? What makes me feel beautiful? What makes me feel like I'm in love with myself? Like, how can I really express this deep passion for myself and with myself through my body? This is such a fruitful time to just connect with my physical body, maybe taking care of my body in a new way. I know that can be like a really big step. So I encourage you to maybe start small with it. Like, maybe I can start out with a small routine. Maybe I can move my body in a new way. I would encourage you to think about what makes me feel like joy. Joy is a big Leo, Venus, sixth house word. Like, what brings me joy, and how can I lean into that so that I can take that to the next step in my life? Because there's freedom in that. There's freedom in tapping into that frequency. And our body is a vehicle. Our body is literally a tool. It's like we were given this body to borrow so that we can experience life. We can experience this as senses, things that are really pleasing to us through our senses is very Venusian energy. So that's what I encourage you to think about during this retrograde period and how you can lean into that in a deeper way. Now, if Venus is in your seventh house, and if Leo is ruling your seventh house, this is all about relationships for you. So seventh house tends to be where we show up at, where partnerships show up. And as you know, or if you listened to earlier on in this video, Venus rules relationships. And being in Leo, this is all about emotional intimacy. So my question to you is, are you open to emotional intimacy? Do you feel like you are well loved? Do you feel like you are giving love freely? Are there any blockages around your heart space? And if so, this retrograde period is really calling you into healing your heart space through relationships. Relationships are a vehicle for healing, and regardless of retrograde time. So this is a really potent time to lean into those relationships that do feel really safe and feel really nourishing and feel really loving and emotionally nourishing. So if I would encourage you, you may start to get clear. You may get clear or some clarity around relationships that don't feel that way or don't feel good in that way. And you may notice that you want to let go of some relationships. If you're getting into a new relationship during this time, I would move through this time really cautiously and maybe not, like, I'm not saying don't get into a relationship, but just be patient with yourself around it and be intentional. If we start a new relationship during a retrograde period, especially Venus retrograde, it may be that something isn't clear during this time. It may become more clear as later on when the retrograde period is gone, or it could be that it's bringing something up to the surface that's wanting to be healed, that's wanting to be addressed. So just keep that in mind, that you may have some stuff coming up, or that stuff may become more clear after this retrograde period is over. So if that's the case, just be mindful of that. Just keep that in the back of your mind. And above all else, the first house is opposing the seventh house. So, or sorry, the seventh house is opposing the first house. So if you have a strong foundation with yourself, it's going to really set you up for success in how you are navigating your relationships. If you have Venus in the eighth house, or if Leo is ruling your eighth house, this is a really potent time around emotional transformation, especially of heart matters. This could show up in your sex life. It could show up through physical intimacy. It could be that something happens that really brings you, a very transformative experience emotionally that really helps your heart heal. That's really the theme that I would give to you during this time, is how can I heal my heart in a deep transformational way? Is there something within me that is wanting to die so that I can be reborn? Is there something that I am getting to connect with through my relationship with my spirituality? Like, is there a tool there to really guide me through these matters of healing my heart? Or is there something that I'm wanting to express in a deeper way so that I can experience this transformative experience of being reborn? What is wanting to come up and out through my heart center, because I'm an open channel to what that is. Connecting with your heart is definitely a necessity during this time. If you have Venus in the ninth house, and if Leo is ruling your ninth house, this might be a really great time to consider if you feel like you are, wanting to learn something new around what you feel passionate about, or if there's like a class that you could take to explore something that you have always wanted to learn about, or something that that really feeds your creative self. Is there something that you've you've always said to myself, like, oh, I really want to do that, but I'll do that later, or I have time to do that. This, you may notice, like if you notice some inner whispers, some inner pull or drive to wanting to learn something new, and then I would follow that. I would trust that and see where it takes you. It may bring you a whole new lens of fulfillment that you didn't have before. Another way it could show up is if you feel called to stepping into some kind of role of leadership where you're really allowing yourself to be seen in this bigger way. Especially around maybe something that you're creating, something you have created, maybe some kind of expertise that you have within the creative arts. Do you feel called to literally put that out into the world, or guide others through mentorship or through teaching, through leadership, through whatever calls to you, and being seen in that way? Like, are you feeling called to publish something? Like maybe it's a book or a song or a piece of art. Like, are you being called to really let yourself be seen in that bigger way from what you've created? If so, listen to that and follow that, because there's a reason why that's speaking to you internally. And I just say to trust it and to follow it wherever it may lead you. If you have Venus in the 10th house, this means that you're probably in doing something within your career around the creative arts, or maybe your soul came here to really embody your creativity, especially in how people are seeing you. This is something that you really came here to work on and to show up as really being seen in a big way around what you're creating, especially around in your career, how you're making money, how people are seeing you. Like you're meant to be seen in a big way. And so what I encourage you to ask yourself is, are you really allowing yourself to be seen in a very openly, creative, vulnerable, transparent way? If you feel like you are, awesome. Maybe there's a deeper level to tap into here. This retrograde period is really calling you to redesign or connect with that deeper rooted sense of what you want to express and what you want to create, how you want to be seen in the world. So I encourage you to really come back to the drawing board. Are you aligned with what you want to create? Is there something that's wanting to come out? Are you blocking yourself from really being seen in a specific way? So these are questions that I would ask yourself, and a good thing you could do is create a vision board. I honestly, I really like to use Pinterest boards to create what I'm picturing, what I'm imagining, just all creative thinking, any kind of thing to really tap into your creative center and setting a vision for how you want that to be expressed through your career. If you have Venus in the 11th house, or if Leo is ruling your 11th house, this is all around your community and goals. So my question to you would be, how connected do you feel around the people in your life? Do you feel like you are holding back in letting your friends or your friendships and letting them really see you? Do you feel like you're really in a community that really feels like it's fulfilling you or feeding you, especially through fun and through creativity, through sensuality? Do you feel like there's any blocks there, especially in maybe how you're showing up in an open, vulnerable way? Is there any past wounds that are wanting to come up and be tended to be healed right now? If so, sit with that. There's something there that's really wanting to be nurtured and loved and cared for right now, so that you can heal and so that you can live through your heart, and to be seen and to express yourself, to give and receive love fully. Like this is the lesson here around Venus and Leo, especially through this retrograde time. So if you don't feel like you're as connected as you'd like to be, where do you want to be connected? Who are the people that you want to be connected to? And how can you lean into different circles or Maybe taking a class, like a dance class would be a really great example, or some kind of art class to meet new people, to tap into your creative center in a deeper new way. Um, yeah, I would really like just get quiet and ask yourself, do you want to how do you want to express yourself right now, and who do you want to connect with? How can you lean into that side of your life in a bigger way? Another thing you could think about is, what is my vision? What am I shooting towards? Do I feel aligned? Do I feel like there's a connection to what my heart wants and how I'm living my life? And if not, maybe come back to your vision, which I've mentioned a couple times for a couple other houses, is what do you want for your future? You know, what are you building towards? What are you creating in your life overall? And if you feel like you're unfulfilled in that way, maybe my homework for you would be to write out a 5-year vision. Like, where do I want to be in 5 years from now? What do I want my life to look like? What do I want to feel like? And see what comes up. Just trust what comes up. Don't limit yourself, but just trust what comes up. And if you have Leo in the 12th house, or if if you have Venus in the 12th house, or if Leo is ruling your 12th house, this is a great time for you to come inward. This is a great time for you to explore your spiritual connection. It's a great time to be with yourself, be in some solitude, and just create, do some art, do some dance, do some spiritual exploration. You may want to take a trip, or go on a healing journey, go to an ashram. This would be a really good time for you to connect with guides, like maybe do some heart healing meditation. Yeah, it's a really great time to just come inward, get quiet, and do or lean into whatever feels good to you in healing your heart chakra. Maybe do some like heart chakra meditations on YouTube or something, or an Insight Timer. That's an app that I really like to use for meditation. And yeah, I encourage you to really lean into your internal experience. The one thing that I would just be mindful of is isolation. There's always a balance here between solitude and isolation, or any just like pull to want to hide. That is something that I would just be mindful of. If you are, this isn't, pushing people away is never a solution. There's beauty in letting yourself being seen in an open way, in a vulnerable way. And so I would encourage you to really sit with what feels safe and nurturing and loving to being seen. And maybe a great place to start is seeing yourself. Maybe doing some mirror work, like looking at yourself in the mirror and maybe saying some loving affirmations to yourself. Maybe just talking to yourself like you would be a friend, expressing some openly vulnerable, heart healing things. That's all of our healing begins with us. So that's what I would encourage you to do. All right. Well, I think that's about all I have to say about Venus retrograde in Leo. I thank you all so much for being here and for watching this video. I so honor each and every one of you. If you would like to know more about me or what I'm offering, you're welcome to go to my website, which is amberbrownshort.com. I'm also on Instagram and TikTok at amberbrownshort. And I offer readings, one-on-one readings, and do ongoing coaching to support people ongoing. So if you're interested in that, you're always welcome to reach out through any of those platforms. And happy retrograde time. Thank you, thank you, thank you.